The taste of betrayal is bitter, even in death. In my first life, I was Chen Wei Lin, a brilliant software engineer who spent 15 years clawing my way up the corporate ladder, only to watch my younger sister, Chen Wei Ming, systematically destroy every opportunity I earned. She was the golden child, beautiful, charming, and utterly ruthless. While I worked 18-hour days to prove my worth, she smiled her way into boardrooms and bedrooms, using her connections to sabotage my projects, steal my ideas, and turn my colleagues against me. The final blow came when she seduced my fiancé and convinced him to embezzle from my startup, leaving me bankrupt and broken. I died alone in a car accident at 35, driving home from yet another failed investor meeting, tears blurring my vision as I realized I'd never escaped her shadow. But death, it seems, is negotiable. I jolt awake, 20 years old again, sitting in the cramped bathroom stall of Beijing University's computer science building. My hands are shaking, not from fear, but from the electric rush of possibility. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead, casting harsh shadows that seem to dance with my racing heartbeat. I'm wearing my old university hoodie, the one with the coffee stain from my disastrous presentation to Professor Liu. That presentation. I remember this day with perfect clarity, March 15th, 2010, the day everything went wrong the first time. Through the thin walls, I can hear footsteps approaching. My sister's voice, sweet and concerned, talking to someone. I'm just worried about Wei Lin. She's been so stressed about her presentation today. I heard her crying in the bathroom. I think she might be having a breakdown. In my first life, I'd rushed out of this stall, mortified and defensive, straight into the trap she'd laid. Professor Liu had been waiting outside, along with two classmates from my advanced algorithms class. My sister's concern had painted me as unstable, unreliable. The presentation I'd worked on for months was dismissed before I'd even given it. That failure cost me the research position I'd dreamed of, while Wei Ming's supportive sister act earned her the professor's favor, and eventually his recommendation for the internship that launched her career. Not this time. I take a deep breath, center myself, and step out of the stall. My sister stands there, flanked by Professor Liu and my classmates, her expression a masterpiece of fake worry. But something in her eyes shifts when she sees my face. The confusion, the dawning recognition, the flash of impossible understanding. Wei Lin, she says slowly, her voice losing its practiced sweetness. You look different. I smile, and it's not the uncertain, desperate smile of my 20-year-old self. It's the smile of someone who's died once and lived to tell about it. I feel different, Mei Mei, remarkably clear-headed, actually. Professor Liu frowns. Chen Wei Ming said you were distressed. My sister has always been imaginative, I interrupt, my voice carrying a confidence that makes Wei Ming's eyes narrow. Professor, I believe we have a presentation to attend. I'm ready when you are. As we walk toward the lecture hall, Wei Ming falls into step beside me. To anyone watching, we look like two sisters, close and supportive. But her whispered words are pure venom. I don't know how, but you remember, don't you? You remember everything. Her fingers dig into my arm, nails biting through my hoodie. It doesn't matter. Whatever game you think you're playing, I've already won. I know all your weaknesses, all your failures. I'll destroy you again, and this time, I'll make sure you stay broken. I turn to meet her gaze, and for a moment, the mask slips completely. She sees the woman I became in my first life, the one who built companies, who fought in boardrooms, who learned to be ruthless because she taught me how. The recognition in her eyes is delicious. Go ahead, I whisper back. Try to destroy me. I'm curious to see what you'll do when you realize you're no longer the smartest person in the room. Her face goes pale, but before she can respond, we've reached the lecture hall. Professor Liu is already introducing my presentation to the class. As I walk to the front, I catch Wei Ming's reflection in the window. She's staring at me with something I've never seen from her before. Fear. The presentation is flawless, not because I'm smarter than my 20-year-old self, though 15 years of experience doesn't hurt, but because I know exactly what Professor Liu wants to hear. I remember his research interests, his pet theories, the projects that made his career. My algorithm isn't just innovative, it's specifically designed to complement his work on distributed computing systems. But that's not the real victory. The real victory is watching Wei Ming's face as I speak. She remembers this day too, remembers how I was supposed to fail, how she was supposed to swoop in with her own emergency presentation that would save the class from my embarrassment. Her laptop sits open on her desk, ready with slides that are now completely useless. Remarkable work, Chen Wei-lin, Professor Liu says as I finish. This is graduate-level thinking. I'd like to discuss a research position with you after class. I nod graciously, but my attention is on Wei Ming. She's realizing the same thing I am. By preventing my original failure, I've trapped her in her own lie. She told everyone she was prepared to step in if I couldn't present. Now she has to deliver something, anything to maintain face. She stands, her smile brittle. I also have a presentation prepared if there's time. Actually, I interrupt smoothly. Wei Ming mentioned she's been struggling with the complexity of this assignment. Professor, perhaps she could benefit from some additional time to refine her work? The words are perfectly respectful, but their effect is devastating. I have just publicly branded her as behind, as needing help, as the weaker sister. The same classmates who would have pitied me in the original timeline now look at her with subtle condescension. Of course, Professor Liu says, though his interest has clearly shifted entirely to me. Take all the time you need, Chen Wei-ming. After class, I don't wait for Wei Ming's inevitable confrontation. Instead, I walk straight to the university's startup incubator program, a program that, in my first life, I'd been too intimidated to even consider. The director, Dr. Sarah Kim, is a Korean-American entrepreneur who returned to China to teach after selling her third company. She's brilliant, ruthless, and exactly the kind of mentor I need. I want to discuss turning my algorithm into a commercial product. I tell her without preamble. Dr. Kim looks up from her laptop, eyebrows raised. You're a sophomore. Most students don't even think about commercialization until their final year. Most students don't have viable products, I counter, handing her a business plan I've spent the last 15 years refining in my head. I'm not most students. She takes the document, and I watch her expression change as she reads. In my first life, I developed this same algorithm, but I'd been too cautious, too afraid of failure. I'd spent 3 years trying to perfect it before approaching anyone. By then, 2 other teams had beaten me to market with inferior but faster to deploy solutions. This time, I'm not waiting. This is ambitious, Dr. Kim says finally. You're talking about disrupting entire industries. I'm talking about creating new ones, I correct. The question is whether you want to be part of that creation or watch it happen. She laughs, but it's the laugh of someone recognizing a kindred spirit. You have balls, Chen Wei-lin, I'll give you that. But you'll need more than algorithms to succeed. You'll need funding, connections, a team. I'll need a mentor who understands what it takes to build something from nothing, I interrupt. Everything else is just logistics. That evening, I'm walking across campus toward my dormitory when my phone buzzes. A text from Wei Ming. Meet me at the old library, 3rd floor, now. I could ignore it. In my first life, I would have. But I'm not the same person who died in that car crash. I'm someone who's learned that the best way to deal with predators is to prove you're not prey. The 3rd floor of the old library is deserted, stacks of dusty books casting long shadows in the dim light. Wei Ming is waiting by the windows, her back to me, silhouetted against the city lights. You've changed everything, she says without turning around. The research position, the startup program, even the way people look at us. In one day, you've undone years of careful positioning. I've undone nothing, I reply calmly. I've simply stopped letting you define my limitations. She turns then, and her face is a mask of cold fury. Do you think this is a game? Do you think because you remember our first life, you can just win? I don't think I can win, Wei Ming. I know I already have. Have you? Her smile is sharp enough to cut glass. Because while you were playing with algorithms and impressing professors, I was making phone calls. Our parents, our aunts and uncles, everyone who matters in our family. They all know about your breakdown in the bathroom. They know you're unstable, unreliable. They're worried about you. My blood runs cold. In my first life, family pressure had been Wei Ming's most effective weapon. Our parents' disappointment, our relatives' concern, the weight of expectations and judgment, It had kept me constantly off balance, always defending, never attacking. You're bluffing, I say. But even as the words leave my mouth, my phone starts ringing. My mother's number. Wei Ming's smile widens. Answer it. I let it ring until it stops. Then it starts again. She's called 3 times since you've been in here, Wei Ming says conversationally. Apparently, she's deeply concerned about your mental health. She's even considering asking you to take a semester off to get help. The familiar weight of family obligation settles on my shoulders like a lead blanket. In my first life, this would have been the end. I would have crumbled under the pressure, spent weeks defending myself instead of advancing my goals, let Wei Ming control the narrative until I was exactly where she wanted me. But something strange happens as I stare at my phone. Instead of panic, I feel calm, almost amused. You know what's funny? I say, looking up at Wei Ming. You're so focused on fighting the last war that you can't see the new battlefield. Her confidence wavers slightly. What do you mean? I mean you're trying to use the same weapons that worked on a scared, insecure 20-year-old. But I'm not that person anymore. I step closer and she actually takes a step back. You want to play the family game? Fine. But you might want to check your own position first. Before she can ask what I mean, her phone buzzes. Then mine. Then hers again. She looks down at her screen and I watch her face go white. What did you do? She whispers. I smile. I sent our parents an email this afternoon. Very concerned, very loving. About how worried I am about you, how you've been acting strange. Talking about things that haven't happened, seeming confused about time and place. I suggested they might want to have you evaluated for early onset psychological issues. The irony is beautiful. In trying to weaponize our family against me, she's forgotten that the same weapon can be turned around. And unlike her vague claims about my breakdown, I have concrete evidence. Her behavior today, her knowledge of things she shouldn't know, her visible distress when I performed better than expected. You bitch, she breathes. I learned from the best, I reply. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a startup to build. I'm halfway to the stairs when I hear her voice, high and desperate. This isn't over, Wei Lin. You think you're so smart, but you have no idea what you've done. You've changed everything, and not all changes are good. There are consequences you can't even imagine. But I'm already walking away, and her words fade into the dusty silence of the old library. Outside, my phone is ringing again. This time, I answer. Hi, Mama, I say, my voice warm and concerned. I got your messages. Is everything okay? 6 months later, I'm standing in Dr. Kim's office, staring at a check for 2 million yuan. Our startup, Nexus Systems, has just closed its seed funding round, and the investors are calling my distributed computing algorithm revolutionary. The irony isn't lost on me. In my first life, this same algorithm took me 5 years to develop and another 3 to find anyone willing to fund it. This time, armed with 15 years of hindsight and the ruthless confidence that comes from having died once, I've compressed that timeline into half a year. But success, I'm learning, brings its own complications. The lead investor wants to meet with you personally, as Dr. Kim says, sliding the contract across her desk. Vincent Xiao from Titan Ventures. He's intense. I know Vincent Xiao. In my first life, he was a predator who specialized in acquiring promising startups, gutting their technical teams, and reselling the intellectual property to larger corporations. He destroyed dozens of entrepreneurs, including 2 of my former colleagues. The fact that he's interested in Nexus Systems isn't good news. It's a warning sign. What's his reputation? I ask, though I already know the answer. Brilliant investor, but he has a pattern. He targets young, inexperienced founders, offers them resources they can't refuse, then gradually takes control of their companies. Dr. Kim's expression is carefully neutral, but I can see the concern in her eyes. Most of them end up working for him instead of with him. And you think I'm young and inexperienced enough to fall for that? She laughs. Wei Lin, you're 20 years old with no business experience outside of this program. On paper, you're exactly his type. But she pauses, studying my face. There's something different about you. You think like someone who's been through wars I can't even imagine. If she only knew. My phone buzzes with a text from Wei Ming. Saw the news about your funding. Congratulations, Gigi. Some of us have been busy too. WM. Attached is a photo that makes my blood run cold. Wei Ming, looking radiant in an expensive business suit, shaking hands with Vincent Xiao himself. The timestamp shows it was taken yesterday. I stare at the image, my mind racing. In the original timeline, Wei Ming had never met Vincent Xiao. She'd built her career through different connections, different betrayals. But by changing my own trajectory, I've apparently pulled her into new orbits as well. Problem? Dr. Kim asks, noticing my expression. My sister, I say carefully. She's apparently connected to our new investor. Connected how? Before I can answer, my phone rings, Vincent Zhao's number. Chen Wei Lin. His voice is smooth, cultured, with just a hint of an accent from his years studying in Silicon Valley. I've been looking forward to our conversation. I understand you've created something quite remarkable. Thank you, Mr. Zhao. I appreciate your interest in Nexus Systems. Actually, I was hoping we could discuss more than just business. Your sister Wei Ming has been telling me fascinating stories about your family. She's quite concerned about you, you know. My stomach drops. Of course. Wei Ming couldn't destroy me through family pressure alone, so she's found a new angle of attack. Poison the well with my investors, make them question my stability, my reliability. My sister is very protective, I say carefully. Indeed. She mentioned you've been under a great deal of stress lately, talking about things that haven't happened yet, making decisions that seem almost prescient. She's worried you might be experiencing some form of psychological distress. The words are perfectly reasonable, perfectly concerned, and perfectly calculated to make any investor run screaming in the opposite direction. Mental health issues in a founder are often seen as a death sentence for a startup. I appreciate her concern, I say, my voice steady, despite the rage building in my chest. But I can assure you that my mental health is excellent. My decisions are based on careful analysis and strategic thinking, not prescience. Of course. Still, I'd feel more comfortable if we could meet in person. Tonight, if possible. I'm having a small gathering at my estate. Just a few entrepreneurs, some potential partners. Your sister will be there as well. It would be a good opportunity for you to clarify any misunderstandings. It's not a request. It's a trap, carefully orchestrated by Wei Ming and baited with 2 million yuan. Refuse, and I look unstable, paranoid. Accept, and I walk into a room designed to make me fail. I'll be there, I say. Excellent. 8 o'clock. And Wei Lin, bring your technical documentation. I'd like to review your algorithm personally. The line goes dead, and I sit back in my chair, mind racing. Dr. Kim is watching me with obvious concern. What just happened? She asks. A declaration of war, I reply. My sister has found herself a new weapon. That evening, Vincent Zhao's estate is everything I expected. Ostentatious, intimidating, designed to make visitors feel small and insignificant. The gathering is intimate, maybe 20 people, all of them successful entrepreneurs or venture capitalists. Wei Ming moves through the crowd like a queen holding court, charming and brilliant and utterly in her element. She's also changed. 6 months ago, she was still playing the role of concerned sister, hiding her ruthlessness behind a mask of family loyalty. Tonight, she's dropped the pretense entirely. Her smile is sharp, predatory. Her conversations are calculated performances designed to position her as the reasonable, stable Chen sister. Wei Lin, she exclaims as I enter, her voice carrying just the right note of worry. I'm so glad you came. You look tired. Are you sleeping? The question seems innocent, but it's strategically placed. Half the room can hear her, including Vincent Xiao, who's approaching with 2 glasses of wine. I'm sleeping fine, I reply evenly, though I have been working long hours. Success requires sacrifice. Success, Vincent says, handing me a glass, also requires balance. Your sister was just telling me about some of your more unusual working habits. Unusual how? Wei Ming laughs, the sound light and musical. Oh, you know how you get when you're focused. Staying up all night, talking to yourself, making those strange calculations about things that might happen years from now. Remember when you predicted that tech company would fail 3 months before it actually did? It was almost like you already knew. The trap is perfectly set. If I deny her claims, I look defensive. If I admit to them, I look unstable. Either way, Vincent Xiao gets to play the concerned investor, reluctantly withdrawing his support from a promising but mentally unstable founder. But Wei Ming has made one crucial mistake. She's assuming I'm still the same person who died in that car crash, still vulnerable to the same psychological warfare. She doesn't understand that dying changes you. It strips away the fear of failure, the need for approval, the desperate desire to be accepted. You're absolutely right, I say, my voice carrying across the room. I do have unusual working habits. I also have unusual results. I reach into my briefcase and pull out a tablet. With a few taps, I bring up a live feed from our servers. Ladies and gentlemen, I announce, I'd like to show you something. Nexus Systems went live an hour ago with our first commercial deployment. We're currently processing distributed computing tasks for 3 major corporations, with response times that are 60% faster than anything currently on the market. The room goes quiet. Vincent Zhao's expression shifts from condescending concern to sharp interest. You launched without telling your investors? He asks. I launched when the technology was ready, I reply. The beauty of distributed systems is that they scale automatically. Every task we process proves our algorithm works. Every satisfied client validates our business model. I swipe to the next screen showing real-time revenue metrics. The numbers are small, but they're growing, visibly, as we watch. Wei Ming is right that I sometimes seem to predict the future. I continue, looking directly at my sister. But it's not prescience, it's preparation. While others are still debating whether something will work, I'm already building it. While others are still securing funding, I'm already generating revenue. The mood in the room has shifted completely. These are entrepreneurs and investors, people who recognize real achievement when they see it. Whatever concerns Wei Ming has planted about my mental state are being overshadowed by the undeniable evidence of success. Vincent Zhao's smile doesn't waver, but I can see the calculation in his eyes. He's reassessing, recalibrating his approach. Impressive, he says. Though I have to wonder about your long-term strategy. Distributed computing is a competitive field. What happens when the big players notice what you're doing? It's a good question, the kind that would have terrified my 20-year-old self. But I've been preparing for it for 15 years. They're already noticing, I say. In fact, I expect the first acquisition offer within the next 2 weeks. And you'll sell? I'll consider it, but not from just anyone. I meet his gaze directly. I'm very careful about who I do business with. I've learned that some partnerships are more dangerous than competition. The message is clear. I know exactly what kind of investor he is, and I'm not as vulnerable as he assumed. Around the room, I can see other investors taking notice, reconsidering their own positions. Wei Ming's face has gone pale. This isn't how the evening was supposed to go. She's losing control of the narrative, and we both know it. Of course, Vincent says smoothly. Partnerships require trust, and trust requires transparency. I hope you'll be willing to share more details about your algorithm. Actually, a new voice interrupts, I'd be interested in those details as well. I turn to see a woman approaching, elegant and confident, with the kind of presence that makes everyone else in the room seem slightly diminished. I recognize her immediately. Liu Mei Chen, CEO of Dragon Capital, one of the most successful venture capital firms in Asia. In my first life, she was a legend I'd only read about in business magazines. Here in this room, she's looking at me with unmistakable interest. Miss Liu, Vincent says, his voice carefully neutral. I didn't expect to see you here. Vincent invited me, she replies, though her attention is entirely focused on me. He said there was a promising young entrepreneur I should meet, though he didn't mention she was already generating revenue. This is the moment I've been building toward, the reason I took the risk of coming here tonight. Liu Mei Chen doesn't just invest in companies, she builds empires. In my first life, every entrepreneur who partnered with her became a market leader. More importantly, she's the one investor Vincent Xiao has never been able to touch, the one person in the room he actually fears. I'd be honored to discuss Nexus Systems with you, I say. Excellent. Why don't we step onto the terrace? I find business conversations go better without distractions. As we move toward the door, I catch Wei Ming's reflection in the window. She's staring at me with an expression I've never seen before. Not anger, not fear, but something deeper. Recognition, maybe. The dawning understanding that she's no longer fighting the same person she destroyed in our first life. On the terrace, Liu Mei Chen gets straight to business. Vincent Xiao is a vulture, she says without preamble. He'll offer you resources, connections, everything you think you need. Then he'll gradually take control of your company until you're working for him instead of with him. I know, I reply, that's why I'm here. She raises an eyebrow. To confront him? To give him enough rope to hang himself with, I correct. And to meet you. She laughs, a sound like silver bells. Direct, I like that. Your sister, on the other hand, has been spending the last hour trying to convince everyone that you're mentally unstable. My sister has always been competitive. Is that what we're calling it? Liu Mei Chen's eyes are sharp as laser points. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like sabotage. Before I can respond, she continues, I've been watching you both tonight. She's smart, charming, everything a successful entrepreneur should be, but you think differently. You see patterns others miss. That's not mental instability, that's strategic brilliance. My phone buzzes with an emergency alert from our servers. The revenue numbers are spiking. We've just landed a major new client, one of the corporations I've been targeting for months. Excuse me, I say, checking the notification. We just signed a contract that will triple our monthly revenue. Liu Mei Chen glances at the screen and whistles softly. On a Saturday night. That's either incredible timing or incredible preparation. It's both, I admit. I've been building toward this moment for longer than you might think. She studies my face for a long moment, then nods as if coming to a decision. Chen Wei Lin, I'm going to make you an offer. Dragon Capital will provide Series A funding for Nexus Systems, 20 million yuan, with terms that guarantee you maintain controlling interest in your company. The number is staggering. 4 times what I was hoping for, with protection against the kind of hostile takeover Vincent Xiao specializes in. What's the catch? I ask. No catch. Just a condition. I want you to tell me the truth about something. She leans closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. How did you really know that revenue spike was coming? The question hangs in the air between us, dangerous and electric. This is the moment I have to decide. Stick to the safe lie, or trust the most powerful woman in Chinese venture capital with an impossible truth. Because, I say slowly, I've seen this future before. She doesn't laugh, doesn't look skeptical. Instead, she nods as if I've confirmed something she already suspected. I thought so, she says. There's something different about you, Chen Wei Lin. Something that makes you dangerous to people like Vincent Xiao and your sister. They're fighting yesterday's war, but you're already fighting tomorrow's. Before I can ask what she means, we're interrupted by commotion from inside. Raised voices, the sound of someone clearly distressed. Through the window, I can see Wei Ming in the center of the room, tears streaming down her face, Vincent Zhao's arm around her shoulders in apparent comfort. She's speaking rapidly to the gathered crowd, her words too muffled to make out clearly. Drama, Liu Mei Chen observes dryly. How convenient. We step back inside just in time to hear Wei Ming's voice, high and desperate. She's been like this for months, talking about things that haven't happened, making impossible predictions. I think she might be having some kind of breakdown, and I'm terrified she's going to hurt herself or someone else. The room has gone silent, everyone staring at her with a mixture of concern and fascination. It's a masterful performance. The worried sister, pushed to her breaking point by her unstable siblings' increasingly erratic behavior. Vincent Xiao looks up as we enter, his expression perfectly crafted to convey reluctant concern. Ah, Wei Lin, your sister has been sharing some troubling observations about your recent behavior. This is the climax Wei Ming has been building toward all evening. The moment when everyone in the room decides I'm too dangerous, too unstable to do business with. In my first life, this kind of public humiliation would have destroyed me completely. But I'm not the same person who died in that car crash. Actually, I say, my voice carrying clearly across the silent room, I think my sister's observation is exactly right. The surprised murmur that runs through the crowd is almost audible. Wei Ming's eyes widen. This isn't the response she was expecting. I do make impossible predictions. I continue. I do seem to know things before they happen, and Wei Ming is right to be concerned about it. Vincent Xiao's smile is predatory. And what do you think causes these episodes? Excellence, I reply simply. The same thing that causes any breakthrough innovation. The ability to see patterns others miss, to extrapolate from incomplete data, to build models of the future that seem impossible until they prove to be accurate. I pull out my tablet again, swiping to a new screen. For instance, 3 months ago, I predicted that Zhao Industries would lose their government contract for smart city development. I looked directly at Vincent. That seemed impossible at the time, since they were the frontrunner for the project, but I'd analyzed their technical specifications and realized they had a fundamental flaw in their security architecture. Vincent's face goes very still. Zhao Industries is his company, and the contract loss I'm referencing was announced just 2 weeks ago. The loss was devastating, both financially and reputationally. Similarly, I continue, I predicted that Dragon Capital would announce a new focus on distributed computing investments. That seemed unlikely since they'd never shown interest in the sector before. Liu Meichen raises an eyebrow. When did you make that prediction? 6 months ago, the same day I started developing my algorithm. She reaches into her purse and pulls out a business card, placing it on the coffee table where everyone can see it. It's her card, but with a new title. Director of Distributed Systems Investments, Dragon Capital. This position was created last week, she says quietly. The announcement goes public on Monday. The room is utterly silent now. Even Wei Ming has stopped crying, her face pale with shock. You see, I say, addressing the crowd but looking directly at Vincent Xiao. My sister thinks my ability to predict the future is a sign of mental instability. But everyone else in this room recognizes it for what it really is. A competitive advantage so overwhelming that it scares people who are used to being the smartest person in the room. Vincent's mask has slipped completely. The cultured investor is gone, replaced by something colder, more calculating. That's quite a claim, Miss Chen. But prediction is one thing. Proof is another. You're absolutely right, I agree. So let me offer you some proof. In the next 90 seconds, you're going to receive a phone call that will change your entire investment strategy. He glances at his watch, then back at me, skepticism clear on his face. And if I don't, then I'll sell Nexus Systems to you for half of what it's worth. The bet is audacious, impossible, exactly the kind of thing that would confirm every doubt Wei Ming has planted about my mental state. But I've been counting on this moment for 6 months, preparing for it since the day I woke up in that bathroom stall. 60 seconds pass. Vincent's confidence is returning, his smile becoming more predatory. 70 seconds. Wei Ming is starting to look hopeful again. 80 seconds. Several people in the room are checking their own phones, as if my prediction might somehow affect them too. 90 seconds. Vincent's phone rings. He stares at it for a moment, then at me, his face unreadable. The caller ID shows a number I can't see, but I know what it says. In my first life, this same call came 2 days later. This time, my actions have accelerated the timeline. Zhao, he answers, his voice carefully controlled. I can't hear the voice on the other end, but I can see Vincent's face change as he listens. The color drains from his cheeks. His grip on the phone tightens until his knuckles go white. Are you certain? He asks. When? I see. Yes, I understand. Thank you. He hangs up and looks around the room, his gaze finally settling on me. That was my contact at the Ministry of Technology, he says slowly. They're announcing new regulations on foreign investment in distributed computing systems. Effective immediately. The implications hit the room like a physical wave. Foreign investment restrictions mean that companies like Vincent's, with their Silicon Valley connections and international backing, will be locked out of the fastest-growing sector in Chinese tech. Companies like mine with purely domestic ownership will have the market to ourselves. How? Vincent whispers. The same way I knew you'd get that call, I reply. The same way I knew Dragon Capital would pivot to distributed systems. The same way I know that in exactly 18 months, the government will announce a new initiative to build a quantum computing network that will make every existing algorithm obsolete, except for the ones designed with quantum compatibility from the beginning. Liu Meichen is staring at me with undisguised fascination. Quantum compatibility. Is that why your algorithm is structured the way it is? Among other reasons, I confirm. The room explodes into whispered conversations, business cards being exchanged, phones being pulled out to make urgent calls. Everyone here understands what they've just witnessed, the emergence of someone who doesn't just predict the future, but shapes it. Everyone except Wei Ming, who's standing in the center of the chaos, tears still wet on her cheeks, looking utterly lost. You, she says, her voice barely audible, you planned all of this. I planned to succeed, I reply. Everything else was just logistics. Vincent Xiao approaches, his earlier predatory confidence replaced by something that looks almost like respect. Miss Chen, I believe I owe you an apology, and perhaps a conversation about partnership rather than acquisition. I appreciate the apology, I say, but I'm afraid you're too late for partnership. You see, I've already accepted Dragon Capital's offer. Liu Mei Chen's smile is brilliant. 20 million yuan, as discussed. I'll have the contracts ready by Monday. As the evening winds down and guests begin to leave, I find myself alone on the terrace with Wei Ming. The city spreads out below us, millions of lights twinkling like stars, each one representing a life, a dream, a possibility. In my first life, I used to find the view overwhelming. All those people, all that competition, all those ways to fail. Now it looks different. It looks like opportunity. I underestimated you, Wei Ming says finally, her voice small and defeated. Yes, I agree, you did. She turns to face me, and for a moment I see not my ruthless, calculating sister, but the scared 20-year-old girl she is. The girl who remembers a lifetime of being second best, of watching her older sister struggle and fail and die alone. What happens now? She asks. Now you have a choice, I tell her. You can keep fighting yesterday's war, trying to destroy someone who's already died once and has nothing left to lose. Or you can accept that the rules have changed and find your own path. And if I choose to keep fighting? I look at her for a long moment. This sister who shaped my first life with her cruelty and ambition. Then you'll discover that the biggest difference between us isn't that I remember the future. It's that I'm not afraid of it anymore. As I walk away, leaving her alone with the city lights and her choices, my phone buzzes with a message from an unknown number. Impressive performance tonight, but parlor tricks and government contacts won't save you from what's coming. A friend. I stare at the screen, ice running through my veins. In my first life, I'd never received a message like this. I'd changed so much, accelerated so many timelines that I'd apparently attracted attention from someone or something that hadn't existed in my original future. The price of changing destiny, it seems, is that destiny sometimes changes back. 3 months after Vincent Xiao's party, Nexus Systems is the crown jewel of China's distributed computing sector. Our valuation has increased tenfold. We've signed exclusive contracts with 5 major corporations, and the government has selected us as the primary contractor for their new quantum-ready infrastructure project. On paper, I've achieved everything I failed to accomplish in my first life, but success, I'm learning, has made me a target. The attack started small, suspicious server outages, delayed permit approvals, minor bureaucratic obstacles that cost us time and money, but nothing more. I assumed it was Vincent Xiao, bitter about losing the deal and striking back through his government connections. I was wrong. The real assault begins on a Tuesday morning when I arrive at our offices to find Liu Mei Chen waiting in the lobby, her usually composed face tight with worry. We need to talk, she says without preamble, privately. In my office, she places a tablet on my desk. The screen shows a series of financial records, investigation reports, and what appears to be surveillance photos of me entering and leaving various buildings. Someone has been conducting a comprehensive investigation into your background, she says. They've hired private investigators, forensic accountants, even former intelligence operatives. Whoever they are, they have resources that make Vincent Xiao look like a street vendor. I scroll through the documents, my blood growing colder with each page. The investigation is thorough, professional, and terrifyingly accurate. They've mapped my daily routines, identified my key relationships, analyzed my financial transactions down to the penny. More disturbing, they've somehow obtained records that should have been impossible to access, internal university documents. sealed family medical records, even childhood school reports. Any idea who's behind this? I ask, though I suspect I already know. The money trail leads to a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands, but the real funding appears to come from something called the Meridian Group. The name hits me like a physical blow. In my first life, I'd never heard of the Meridian Group, but the investigation tactics, the level of resources, the surgical precision of their approach, it's exactly what I'd expect from the kind of organization that operates in the shadows of global finance. What do you know about them? I ask. Nothing official, but I've heard rumors. Private equity firms, supposedly, but they operate more like a government intelligence agency. They specialize in identifying emerging technologies before they become publicly known, then either acquiring them or destroying them. My phone buzzes with a calendar reminder. Lunch with Wei Ming. We've been meeting monthly since Vincent's party, an uneasy truce that slowly evolved into something resembling genuine sisterhood. She's found her own path, launching a consulting firm that helps traditional companies adapt to digital transformation. It's legitimate work, profitable, and completely separate from my own ventures. But as I look at the surveillance photos on Liu Meichen's tablet, I notice something that makes my stomach drop. In the background of one image, barely visible but unmistakably familiar, is my sister's profile. Meichen, I say carefully, how long has this investigation been going on? Based on these documents, at least 6 months? 6 months, since the night of Vincent's party. Since I publicly demonstrated my ability to predict the future. Since Wei Ming realized that her old methods of destroying me wouldn't work anymore. The restaurant where Wei Ming and I meet for lunch is a small, elegant place in Beijing's financial district. She's already waiting when I arrive, looking polished and professional in a navy business suit. But there's something different about her today. A tension in her posture, a careful distance in her smile. "You look tired, Gigi," she says as I sit down. "The pressures of success wearing on you?" "Something like that," I reply, studying her face. "How's your consulting business?" "Growing rapidly. I'm actually expanding into new markets, international clients, global partnerships. It's amazing how many doors open when you have the right connections." The word connections hangs in the air between us, loaded with meaning. I think about the surveillance photos, the months-long investigation, the shell companies, and mysterious funding. "Speaking of connections," I say casually, "have you ever heard of the Meridian Group?" The change in her expression is subtle but unmistakable. A tightening around her eyes, a slight pause before she responds. "Should I have?" "Probably not. They're very exclusive." She takes a sip of her tea, her movements carefully controlled. "You know, Waylin, I've been thinking about our conversation that night on Vincent's terrace. About choices and paths and the future. And I've realized something important. You may have changed the rules of our game, but you haven't changed the game itself. There are always bigger players, higher levels, more complex strategies than any individual can comprehend." The words sound like a warning or a threat. "That's true," I agree. "But the beauty of distributed systems is that they're designed to handle complexity. The more complicated the challenge, the more robust the response becomes." She smiles, and for a moment, it's the same predatory expression I remember from our first life. What if the challenge isn't just complicated, but fundamentally different? What if someone changed the rules on you the same way you changed them on everyone else? Before I can respond, her phone chimes. She glances at it, and her smile widens. "I'm sorry, but I have to cut this short. Emergency client meeting." She stands, gathering her purse and documents. "But Wei Lin, you should be very careful about assuming you understand all the forces at play. The future isn't as predictable as you think." She leaves me sitting alone in the restaurant, her words echoing in my mind. The future isn't as predictable as you think. Coming from anyone else, it would sound like generic advice. Coming from Wei Ming, it sounds like inside information. That evening, I'm working late in my office when my assistant calls on the intercom. "Miss Chen? There's someone here to see you. Says it's about your sister." The visitor is a woman in her 50s, elegantly dressed, with the kind of confident bearing that suggests military or intelligence background. She introduces herself as Director Sarah Wang from something called the Technology Oversight Commission, a government agency I've never heard of. Miss Chen, she says, settling into the chair across from my desk. We need to discuss your sister's recent business activities. What about them? She's been facilitating technology transfers to foreign entities. Specifically, she's been providing detailed information about Chinese distributed computing capabilities to an organization called the Meridian Group. The words hit me like a sledgehammer. Not just because Wei Ming is apparently committing treason, but because of what it means about our relationship. Every lunch, every conversation, every moment of apparent reconciliation, she's been gathering intelligence. You're suggesting my sister is a spy, I say. I'm telling you she is. The question is whether you're complicit or just naive. Director Wang slides a tablet across my desk. The screen shows bank records, encrypted communications, meeting logs. The evidence is overwhelming and undeniable. Wei Ming has been selling information about Chinese tech capabilities to foreign entities for months. But as I scroll through the documents, something doesn't add up. The information she's providing is valuable but not critical. Technical specifications, market analysis, strategic assessments, the kind of intelligence that could help competitors but wouldn't constitute a serious national security threat. Unless that wasn't the real purpose. Director Wang, I say slowly, what exactly does the Meridian Group do with this information? We believe they're building a comprehensive map of Chinese technological capabilities, identifying strengths, weaknesses, and most importantly, key innovators. Key innovators like me. Exactly. Your sister's intelligence gathering has been primarily focused on one target: you, your capabilities, your methods, your resources, your vulnerabilities. The full scope of Wei Ming's betrayal becomes clear. She didn't just sell out to a foreign intelligence operation, she used it as a weapon against me personally. The months-long investigation, the surveillance, the careful probing during our lunches, it was all designed to give the Meridian Group everything they needed to destroy me. What do they want? I ask. Your algorithm, your quantum compatibility research, your government contracts, everything that makes Nexus systems valuable. Director Wang leans forward, her expression grave. But more than that, they want to eliminate you as a competitive threat. The Meridian Group doesn't just acquire promising technologies, they ensure that the people who created them can never create anything else. My hands are shaking as I set down the tablet. In my first life, Wei Ming's betrayals were personal, petty, designed to hurt me emotionally and professionally. This is something else entirely: systematic, methodical, potentially lethal. There's something else, Director Wang continues, something that might explain why your sister would take such an extreme step. She swipes to a new document, one that makes my blood freeze. It's a psychological evaluation, detailed and thorough, with Wei Ming's photo at the top. We've been monitoring your sister for several months, trying to understand her motivations. What we discovered is unusual. According to our analysts, Chen Wei Ming exhibits signs of what they're calling temporal displacement syndrome, behavior patterns consistent with someone who has memories of events that haven't occurred yet. The words hang in the air like a death sentence. Wei Ming isn't just a traitor, she's someone who, like me, remembers our first life. But unlike me, she's using that knowledge not to build something better, but to destroy everything I've accomplished. You don't seem surprised, Director Wang observes. Should I be? Most people would find the concept impossible to believe. I look at her for a long moment, weighing my options. The truth is impossible, but a lie might be more dangerous. Director Wang, I say finally, if someone did have memories of events that haven't happened yet, what would you expect them to do with that information? Build the future they want, she replies without hesitation, or destroy the one they don't. And if two people had those same memories but wanted different futures, then one of them would have to lose. The simplicity of it is beautiful and terrifying. Wei Ming and I are fighting a war that transcends normal human experience, using weapons that shouldn't exist, for stakes that include not just our own lives but the shape of reality itself. What happens now? I ask. Now you have a choice. You can cooperate with our investigation, help us understand the full scope of the Meridian Group's operation, and potentially save your company and your life. Or you can try to handle this alone and almost certainly lose everything. I think about my sister, brilliant and ruthless and apparently willing to commit treason to destroy me. I think about the Meridian Group, with their unlimited resources and their systematic approach to eliminating threats. I think about everything I've built, everything I've sacrificed, everything I've died for. What kind of cooperation are you talking about? I ask. Director Wang's smile is sharp and predatory, the kind that turns hunters into prey. The trap takes 2 weeks to set. Director Wang's people provide the technical infrastructure, encrypted communications, false intelligence, carefully orchestrated leaks that make it appear as though I've discovered Wei Ming's betrayal, but don't know the full scope of the Meridian Group's operation. My job is simpler but more dangerous. I have to act like the naive tech entrepreneur who's just realized her sister is a traitor. The performance begins at our next monthly lunch. Wei Ming arrives looking composed and confident, but I can see the calculation in her eyes. She's waiting for me to make a move, to confront her or threaten her, or break down completely. Instead, I order wine with lunch, something I've never done before, and spend the meal talking about everything except business. "You seem different today," she observes as we finish our appetizers. "Reflective, I suppose. Success has a way of making you think about the people who matter most." I raise my glass in a toast. To family, the one thing that stays constant when everything else changes. The irony is so thick, I'm surprised she doesn't choke on it. But Wei Ming has always been an excellent actress. She clinks her glass against mine and drinks, her smile warm and apparently genuine. "Have you given any thought to expanding internationally?" she asks casually. "I've been working with some foreign clients who are very interested in distributed computing applications." The fishing expedition is so obvious, it's almost insulting. But I play my part, leaning forward with apparent interest. "Really, what kind of applications?" "Financial modeling mostly, risk assessment for global markets. They're particularly interested in quantum-compatible algorithms." Her voice is perfectly casual, but her eyes are sharp as laser points. "I could introduce you if you're interested." That sounds fascinating, though I'd want to be very careful about intellectual property protection. Some of my government contracts have strict confidentiality requirements. Of course, these are very reputable firms, the kind that understand discretion. We're dancing around the edges of her real agenda, each of us testing the other's knowledge and intentions. It's almost like our old childhood games, except the stakes now include national security and possibly our lives. Over the next week, Wei Ming introduces me to 3 potential business partners, all of them obviously intelligence operatives, all of them eager to learn about my quantum compatibility research. I play the role of the ambitious entrepreneur, sharing carefully prepared misinformation while Director Wang's people monitor every conversation. The breakthrough comes on a Thursday evening. I'm having dinner with one of Wei Ming's contacts, a man calling himself David Chen, who claims to represent a Singapore-based investment firm. His questions are sophisticated, probing, designed to map the technical architecture of my algorithms without seeming to do so. "Your quantum compatibility approach is fascinating," he says over dessert. "I'm curious about the theoretical foundations. Are you building on established quantum computing principles or developing something entirely new?" It's the perfect opening for the trap Director Wang has designed. I lean forward, lowering my voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "Can I trust you with something sensitive?" His eyes light up with predatory interest. "Absolutely. The quantum compatibility isn't just theoretical. I've been working with researchers at the Chinese Academy of Sciences on actual quantum hardware. Small-scale tests, but the results are..." I pause dramatically. "Let's just say they're revolutionary." It's a complete lie, but it's exactly the kind of intelligence the Meridian Group would kill for. Literal quantum computing capabilities, not just compatibility. The kind of breakthrough that could shift global technological balance overnight. "That's remarkable," David says, his voice carefully controlled. "When do you expect to have scalable results?" "Soon, very soon. But obviously this has to stay completely confidential. The national security implications? Of course, though, if you were ever interested in foreign investment for a further development." I let him dangle the bait, appearing to consider it seriously. "I suppose it would depend on the terms and the level of discretion involved." That night, I sit in my apartment waiting for the inevitable call. It comes at 2 a.m. Wei Ming's number, her voice tight with excitement and barely controlled urgency. We need to meet, she says without preamble. Tonight, it's about those foreign investors I mentioned. Wei Ming, it's 2 in the morning. This can't wait. They're moving faster than expected. If you want to be part of this opportunity, we need to act now. The urgency is manufactured, designed to pressure me into making a quick decision without time to think or plan. It's exactly the kind of psychological manipulation Wei Ming excelled at in our first life. Where? I ask. The old warehouse district, Pier 47. There's a private meeting room above the shipping office, 1 hour. The location is perfect for what they have planned. Isolated, defensible, with multiple exit routes and no surveillance coverage. In our first life, this is where Wei Ming's manipulations would have succeeded completely. I would have gone alone, unprepared, trusting in family bonds that she'd already severed. And this time, I'm not going alone. Director Wang's team is already in position when I arrive at Pier 47. Surveillance equipment, tactical support, extraction routes, everything needed to turn Wei Ming's trap into our own. But the real weapon isn't technology or manpower. It's the truth I've been carrying for 8 months. The secret that will finally end our war. The meeting room is exactly what I expected. Sparse, functional, designed for clandestine conversations. Wei Ming is waiting with 3 men I don't recognize, all of them carrying the kind of confident bearing that suggests military or intelligence background. The Meridian Group's representation in China, no doubt. Wei Lin, Wei Ming says, rising to greet me. Thank you for coming so quickly. These gentlemen have a proposal that could change everything for you. The leader of the group steps forward, extending his hand. Miss Chen, I'm Director Harrison from Meridian Strategic Investments. Your sister has told us remarkable things about your quantum computing research. Has she? I reply, shaking his hand and noting the calluses that suggest weapons training. I hope she hasn't exaggerated my capabilities. Based on what we've heard, that would be impossible. His smile is predatory. We're prepared to offer you a partnership that could accelerate your research timeline by years. Unlimited funding, access to quantum hardware you can't get through Chinese sources, and complete protection from government interference. In exchange for exclusive licensing rights to your algorithms and quantum compatibility research, along with your personal commitment to work with our development team. The offer is exactly what I expected. Superficially generous, but structured to give them complete control over my work and my life. Accept, and I become a high-paid prisoner. Refuse, and I become a problem to be eliminated. That's very generous, I say carefully, but I'd need to understand more about your organization before making such a significant commitment. Director Harrison's expression doesn't change, but I catch a glance that passes between him and Wei Ming. The signal they've been waiting for. Of course, he says. Perhaps your sister could provide some context. She's been working with us for quite some time. Wei Ming steps forward, her mask finally dropping completely. The concerned sister, the reformed adversary, the partner in rebuilding our relationship, all of it falls away, leaving the ruthless strategist I remember from our first life. Wei Lin, she says, do you remember what you told me that night on Vincent's terrace? About having nothing left to lose because you'd already died once? The words hit me like ice water. She's not just admitting to her betrayal, she's revealing that she knows exactly what I am, what we both are. I remember, I reply. Good. Because I want you to understand something before this goes any further. You're not the only one who died in that car crash. The room goes silent. Director Harrison and his men are staring at Wei Ming with obvious confusion, but I understand perfectly. The car crash that killed me in my first life. Wei Ming was supposed to be in that car. She was supposed to die with me. You changed everything when you avoided the research position failure, she continues. But you didn't just change your own timeline. You changed mine. In our first life, I was in that car because I was coming to gloat over your latest failure, because I destroyed your last chance at success and wanted to see you break completely. The truth is staggering. In saving myself, I'd inadvertently saved her too. But instead of gratitude, she'd chosen to see it as another theft, another way I'd stolen something that rightfully belonged to her. You died because of your own cruelty, I say quietly. I didn't save you. I just gave you a chance to choose differently. And I have chosen differently. I've chosen to finish what should have been finished in that car. Her smile is brilliant and terrifying. The Meridian Group doesn't just want your algorithms, Wayland. They want to ensure that you never create anything else. Ever. Director Harrison steps forward, his confusion evident. I'm sorry, but what exactly are you two talking about? This is the moment I've been building toward, the revelation that will end our war once and for all. I look at Wei Ming, then at Director Harrison, then back at my sister. We're talking about the fact that your intelligence asset is clinically insane, I say calmly. The words hit the room like a physical blow. Wei Ming's face goes white, then red with fury. What did you just say? You heard me. You're insane, Wei Ming. Suffering from what the psychologists call temporal displacement syndrome, the delusion that you remember events that never happened. I turn to Director Harrison, whose expression has shifted from confusion to sharp concern. Has she told you about our first life? About the car crash that killed us both? About her memories of a future that doesn't exist? Wei Ming starts, but I cut her off. No, let me finish. For months, you've been selling intelligence to foreign operatives based on delusional memories of a timeline that never existed. You've committed treason in service of a fantasy. Director Harrison is staring at Wei Ming with dawning horror. Is this true? Have you been basing your intelligence assessments on hallucinations? They're not hallucinations, Wei Ming screams. Tell them, Wei Lin. Tell them about the rebirth, about the second chance, about everything we remember. And there it is. The trap she's walked into with her eyes wide open. By revealing the truth about our shared memories, she's confirmed everything I've just told them about her mental state. To anyone listening, we sound like two people sharing the same elaborate delusion, except I have proof that my delusions are actually accurate predictions, while hers have led her to commit crimes against the state. Mei Ming, I say gently, I think you need help. Professional help. Director Harrison is already reaching for his phone, probably to report back to his superiors that their Chinese intelligence asset has suffered a complete psychotic break. But Wei Ming isn't finished. You bitch, she snarls, lunging toward me. You think you're so clever, but you have no idea what you've done. The Meridian Group isn't just some foreign intelligence operation. There's something else entirely. Something that existed in our first life, too. Something that's been watching us, tracking us, waiting. She never finishes the sentence. Director Wang's people move in that moment, surrounding the building, cutting off all escape routes. The operation she's planned so carefully becomes our victory in the space of 30 seconds. As Wei Ming is led away in handcuffs, she turns back to me one last time. This isn't over, she says. You think you've won, but you have no idea what's coming. The Meridian Group was just the beginning. There are forces at work that make them look like children playing games. The door closes behind her, cutting off her words. But they echo in my mind long after she's gone, carrying the weight of prophecy and the chill of unfinished business. Director Harrison and his team are also in custody, their operation blown, their intelligence asset revealed as delusional. But as I watch them being processed, I can't shake the feeling that this victory is smaller than it appears. Wei Ming was right about one thing. The Meridian Group was just the beginning. And now, by eliminating them, I may have attracted the attention of something far more dangerous. 6 months after Wei Ming's arrest, Nexus Systems dominates the Chinese distributed computing market. Our government contracts have expanded into quantum research partnerships. Our international reputation has attracted legitimate foreign investment, and our technology is being integrated into critical infrastructure projects across the country. I've achieved everything I dreamed of in my first life, and more. But success, I'm learning, has its own gravitational pull. The first sign of new trouble comes during a routine security briefing with Director Wang. We're reviewing quarterly threat assessments when she places a classified folder on my desk, her expression grimmer than usual. We've been monitoring international intelligence chatter, she says without preamble. Your name has been appearing in contexts that concern us. The folder contains intercepted communications, surveillance reports, and threat analyses from agencies I've never heard of. The picture they paint is disturbing. Nexus Systems isn't just a successful Chinese tech company anymore. We're a strategic asset whose capabilities have implications for global technological balance. How serious is this, I ask? Serious enough that we're recommending enhanced security protocols for you personally. Travel restrictions, bodyguard details, secure communication systems. She pauses, studying my face. Chen Wei Lin, you've become what the intelligence community calls a critical node, someone whose continued existence or elimination could shift the balance of power between nations. The irony is bitter. In my first life, I died in obscurity, my potential unrealized, my contributions forgotten. In this life, I've succeeded so completely that my death has become a matter of international interest. What about Wei Ming? I ask. Has she provided any useful intelligence about the Meridian Group's operations? Director Wang's expression darkens. That's complicated. Your sister has been cooperative, but her information is difficult to verify. She insists that the Meridian Group was part of a larger organization, something she calls the Temporal Management Consortium. The name sends ice through my veins. Temporal management. According to Wei Ming, there are others like you, people with memories of alternate timelines, individuals who've somehow gained knowledge of futures that haven't occurred yet. She claims this consortium monitors such people and either recruits them or eliminates them as necessary. The implications are staggering. If Wei Ming is telling the truth, then our rebirth wasn't unique. There are others scattered across the world, all of them carrying the burden and power of impossible memories. And somewhere, there's an organization dedicated to controlling them. Do you believe her? I ask. 6 months ago, I would have recommended psychological evaluation and medication. But then I started looking at your own track record, the predictions, the strategic decisions, the uncanny ability to anticipate market changes before they occur. She leans forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. Chen Wei Lin, either you're the most intuitive entrepreneur in human history, or you have access to information that shouldn't exist. Before I can respond, my phone buzzes with an urgent message from my head of security. Unknown package delivered to your apartment, building evacuated, bomb squad en route. Director Wang is already on her feet, barking orders into her radio. Within minutes, we're in an armored vehicle racing toward my apartment building, surrounded by a convoy of government security personnel. The package, it turns out, isn't a bomb. It's worse. Inside an innocuous shipping box, wrapped in layers of protective foam, is a single photograph. The image shows me walking out of my office building yesterday, but the timestamp in the corner displays a date 3 days in the future. Attached is a handwritten note. Time is more flexible than you realize. So is mortality. TMC. Director Wang stares at the photograph for a long time, then at me. This image was taken with yesterday's lighting conditions and weather patterns. The timestamp shows tomorrow's date, and it was delivered this morning. Meaning whoever sent this can either predict the future with perfect accuracy, or they have access to technology that operates outside normal temporal constraints. The Temporal Management Consortium. If Wei Ming is telling the truth, they're not just monitoring people like us. They're demonstrating capabilities that make our memories of alternate timelines seem trivial by comparison. That evening, I sit in a secure government facility. My apartment declared unsafe, my normal life suspended indefinitely. Director Wang has assigned me a full security detail, but I can see in her eyes that she knows the truth. If the TMC has the kind of capabilities that photograph suggests, conventional protection is meaningless. I'm reviewing technical documents when the lights go out. Emergency power kicks in 30 seconds later, bathing everything in red light. My security detail is shouting into their radios, reporting a complete failure of the building's electrical grid, but I'm focused on something else. The laptop on my desk, which should have shut down with the power loss, is still running. On the screen is a video feed showing a room I don't recognize. A man in an expensive suit sits behind a mahogany desk, his face hidden in shadow. When he speaks, his voice is cultured, educated, with the kind of accent that suggests international education. Chen Wei Lin, he says, my name is Director Morrison, and I represent the Temporal Management Consortium. I believe your sister mentioned us. I glance around the room. My security detail is still focused on the power failure, apparently unable to see or hear the video feed. Whatever technology the TMC is using, it's operating on frequencies or principles beyond conventional understanding. What do you want? I ask quietly. To offer you a choice. You've become quite successful in this timeline, building on knowledge that, strictly speaking, you shouldn't possess. That presents us with a problem. What kind of problem? The kind that occurs when individuals with temporal displacement capabilities operate without oversight. Your sister was manageable. Her motivations were petty, personal, easily predicted and contained. But you... He leans forward and I catch a glimpse of pale eyes that seem to see too much. You're building infrastructure that could affect global technological development for decades. That requires coordination. Coordination with whom? With us. The TMC has been monitoring temporal anomalies for longer than you might imagine. We maintain order, ensure stability, prevent paradoxes that could unravel causality itself. People like you, people with memories of alternate timelines, require careful management. The words sound reasonable, even benevolent. But there's something underneath them, a current of threat that makes my skin crawl. And if I refuse your coordination, then you become a threat to temporal stability, and threats must be eliminated. The video flickers, showing me images of people I don't recognize, men and women of various ages and ethnicities, all of them marked with red X's. These individuals possessed capabilities similar to yours. They chose to operate independently. They no longer exist. You killed them. We removed them from the timeline. There's a difference, though perhaps not one you'd appreciate. His voice carries a note of regret that might be genuine. Chen Wei-Lin, you have 48 hours to consider our offer. Join us willingly, and your knowledge and capabilities will be used to benefit humanity as a whole. Refuse, and you'll be removed from this timeline entirely. What about my company, my work, the people who depend on me? Alternative arrangements will be made. Your disappearance will be explained as a tragic accident, perhaps a car crash, given your history. Your technology will be acquired by parties who understand the importance of proper oversight. The screen goes black just as the main power returns. My security detail looks around in confusion, unable to explain the 30-minute outage or the failure of their communication systems. But on my desk, beside the laptop, is something that wasn't there before. A business card with no name, no title, just a phone number and the letters TMC. Director Wang arrives an hour later, her face grim with new intelligence. We've been monitoring global communication networks, she says. 47 minutes ago, every major intelligence agency in the world received the same message. Chen Wei-Lin is considered a person of international interest, and any nation that provides her sanctuary will face economic and technological sanctions. From whom? That's the problem. The message appears to have originated from every agency simultaneously. American CIA, Russian SVR, British MI6, Israeli Mossad, all of them claim they didn't send it, but all of them confirm they received it from legitimate sources within their own organizations. The scope of the TMC's infiltration is breathtaking. They haven't just penetrated global intelligence networks, they appear to control them at least partially. Director Wang, I say carefully, what would happen if I simply disappeared? Left the country, abandoned Nexus systems, tried to start over somewhere else? Her expression tells me everything I need to know. Chen Wei-Lin, you're not just a successful entrepreneur anymore, you're a strategic asset. The Chinese government has invested too much in your technology and your capabilities to simply let you walk away. I'm trapped between two impossible forces. A government that sees me as too valuable to lose, and an organization that sees me as too dangerous to live. In my first life, I died because I failed to achieve anything significant. In this life, I may die because I've achieved too much. That night, alone in my secure room, I think about the choices that brought me here. The decision to confront Wei Ming instead of hiding from her. The choice to build something revolutionary instead of settling for conventional success. The determination to use my impossible knowledge to change the world instead of my sister ruined my job interview again, Reborn. I let her sabotage me and became her boss's boss.